Hey y'all, Jordan from Carolina Sewing back here. And if you just got home with your brand new Baby Lock 6 or 10 needle machines, congratulations. And I'm going to go through some of the most common questions I get and what I like to go over with people when I'm sending them home with a new machine. We're going to go over how to set it up out of the box as soon as you unpack it. I'm going to go over some of the supplies you may need to get started, threading and hooping, as well as a little bit of the troubleshooting with some issues you may run into with a brand new machine. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is locate your A-arm. It's a white piece that holds the frame. It has an A on it. You can get out of this bag here. And on it you're going to have, well, 3 screws. There's a large gray one and 2 smaller gray ones. And you can go ahead and take these all the way out. They're pretty small, so be careful not to drop them and lose them. Once you got them out, you can bring this over to the machine, and you're going to line up the 2 posts that are on the machine with these holes here. It can only go on one way, and it just about falls in place. So I'm going to bring it over here and show you how that works. Okay, now what you want to do is check your machine here. It's going to have 2 posts, one here and one right here. And you're going to take your arm here and you want to line it up with the holes on your A-arm. And they will fall right into place when you have it right. And then you can take your screws and go ahead and thread those on to the hole that's just to the right of the post. Get those on just like that. You want them finger tight. You don't have to get in here with a screwdriver or nothing, but you definitely don't want them to be loose. Alright, now that our A-arm is on, the next thing you probably want to do is get this thread stand hooked up. So what you'll need is this clear box that comes with your machine. It's got a lot of handy tools in it. One of them is just a regular Phillips head screwdriver right here. What you can do with this is there's 2 small Phillips screws that hold pressure on the stand. It's on the inside, and all you need to do is just give that a nice little loosen. You don't need to take the screw completely out. And what you want to do is loosen them up to the point you can take your thread stand and lift it in place, and then tighten it back down. Same way on the other side. Loosen it up. Lift that in place until, yep, and then tighten it back down. And then we're going to open this up. There's a large gray screw right here in between the thread spools. You may need to get a screwdriver loosen. It does come pretty tight, but just loosen that up so you can butterfly these out, and then get that a little tightened back down, and you're good to go. Okay, and this next part is optional, but it's something I like to mention. When you get your machine, you can see it here. It's going to be in metric. So if you want to switch it to standard, you can, and all you got to do is go to this little paper. This is your settings. On the Array and Intrepid, it's on page 5, but if it's not on page 5 for your particular machine, just scroll through till you see the little ruler. It says mm. That's millimeters. All you have to do is switch the arrow till it says inches, and then when you go here, it'll display your designs in inches. Okay, next I want to go over a couple things you may want to have on hand while you're learning how to operate your new machine. First thing, stabilizers. I keep it really simple. When you get home, you may just want to have a couple on hand to play around with. I recommend like a medium tearaway. This is going to be probably one of the least expensive options to have on stuff that you can actually still use on, you know, towels and napkins, hand towels, playing around with scraps, stuff like that. Also, a medium cutaway. This is really what you'd want to use if you were doing any kind of apparel like sweatshirts or t-shirts. And this is another one I would definitely have on hand. There's a world of other stabilizers you can get into as you progress, but these are the 2 go-tos that I would definitely pick up at the shop before you go home. Also, thread. Another subject that everywhere is going to be a little different, but me personally, I really like Floriani thread. It's all I use, all we use at the shop. They have a great sheen, a lot of different color options, and it runs great through the machines. I have a lot of people who do embroidery professionally, and this is all they use as well, and their stuff looks top-notch. Bobbins. I typically always use pre-wounds, typically always use white. It's going to come with 6 pre-wound magnetic bobbins. These work great. Paper-sided work great as well. You can also use size L metal bobbins if you want to wind your own for whatever reason. You can't do that on board on the machine, but you can get an external bobbin winder of any kind that would work with that, and those will work just fine. And needles. Your machine comes with a pack of needles, 2 packs of needles probably, and they're great for learning. They're a little small for what I particularly like to use. Almost all the embroidery that I typically do is going to be using an 8012 Microtex from Floriani. You can find these, they work great, they last a long time. I typically try and stay away from 7511s unless I'm doing something really delicate. If you do use those, you want to be real careful with your needle threader. Your needle threader is just big enough to get in and out of those, and if that needle's bent slightly, you can tear your needle threader up, and that's not really fun. Ballpoints is another one I would have on hand. This is going to be for your knits and t-shirts and stuff like that that you want to do. You wouldn't use these on leather or towels or that heavy stuff, but you will want them on knits and looser weave materials. Also accessories. There's a plethora of hoops that you can have, aftermarket hoops. Fast frames are a really popular one. I got some of those down here. They're going to come in a pack like this with a set, and then when you unpack it, this is your adapter. I won't go into too much about how these work, but they're really nice for getting inside pockets or bags or challenging stuff like that. And these are your actual hoops. If you get the set, it comes with, I believe, 7 different sizes. And these can be great. There's also hat frames. If you plan on doing hats like this, the Baby Lock professional hat frame works great. It's easy to use, it's easy to work with. Clamp hoops are really good. There's a lot of different ones out there. I would just watch some videos and see what may work best for you. Stand is a good thing to have, but it's not 100% necessary. This is the regular white stand from Baby Lock. I like it because it has the opening. If you do any traveling to craft shows or any kind of events, it packs up real well. It's on wheels so you can roll it around, so it's a little bit more mobile than a full desk or a large table could be. Magnetic hoops are another popular one. I prefer using the Dime branded ones. They are not a direct hoop from Baby Lock, but your machine does know what it's using. So when you put that Dime magnetic hoop on, if you're using a 5x7, it knows you're using that 5x7. So it's not going to try and go outside those bounds and do an 8x12. And that's going to give you some peace of mind when you're doing stuff, especially if you're new to this. Now I'm going to show you how to thread it. I'm going to set the camera up and I'm going to try and get some really good angles so you can hopefully see everything. Obviously this is in your manual. I'm sure there's a lot of other videos, but I'm going to try and break down some of the things that I like to highlight when I'm teaching people how to thread it. Alright, so you can do this in whatever order you like. I normally start from the inside out, but in this case I'm going to start number 1 so you can see it really well. The way this works is this is needle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right to left. And I'm using red thread so hopefully you can see it really easily. So the first step is put this on here. You're going to go straight up. And from the back to the front here. And then you're going to keep going to this right here. This one can be tricky. Might take you a few tries to get it, but get a hold of it right there. And come straight down to here. Still going back to front. And this is really important, and I'll actually talk about this a little more later, but this little clip is your pre-tension. It's really important that I like to hold back here, push it forward to click it in place, because you want to make sure your thread is completely under that clip on the front and the back. And then once you get to your tension, you make a full turn. So it's something like this. So it actually crosses over itself. You don't just want to lap it in there. And then if you look on the top of your machine head, it does give you a little diagram to follow. So if I follow the diagram, it tells me what side of these posts to put it on. And I just follow that until I get to this pretension. And same deal. You want to make sure it seats all the way underneath it. And once you've got in that clip, you're going to come all the way down and then back up. Once you wrap it around there, that guy right there, going straight up. And then to get it through your take up, it's just right to left through this hole. Like so. And I only like to pull out a little slack. And then you're going to go straight through the number 1 hole going down right here. Just like that. And then I like to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be, nothing got out of whack. And then I'll move on and I'll do all the rest of the needles and leave them at this portion, and then I thread the needle all at the same time. Alright, and now we got to where we're going to thread the needle. This is going to get a little tricky because I'm going to have to go moving the camera around a little bit. But the first thing is you got to get your thread around your take up. So this is a trick I like to show people. If you grab the foot you're working with, or the foot for the needle that you're working with, it pulls down a little bit. And you can get your thread behind this right here on the right side. And if you just let it go, it usually just falls right into place. If not, you can give it a little yank and it'll work. And now you got to activate your needle threader. So this is where we're going to get a little weird, but I'm going to bring the camera over here to the screen. I'm going to change it up a little bit. This button right here is going to select which needle you're specifically trying to thread. So right here, we're working on number 1, so we're good. But if we work on a different one, you just select which one you're threading. And then you're going to touch your needle threader, which is this button right here. And that activates it and brings it right over here. And if we can focus, you can see it right there. So now what you want to do is you want to hold your thread like this, and right to left you're going to put it, catch that little finger and come up here. I don't know if you'll hear it on video, but it does give you a nice positive click. Just like that, and it'll hold in place. So what you got is you have it wrapped underneath this piece and clicked into place on the far left piece that's actually part of the foot here. You can bring this up, and these are cutters, these little white pieces, and you can wrap it over top. You can cut your excess and you're good. And you're going to hit that same button that you just pressed to bring the needle threader down. Just hit it one time and it threads your needle. 5 more times and you're ready to embroider. Alright, so now what you want to do is you want to take your bobbin case. I hold it upside down in my hand like this and take the bobbin. It has a magnet. The dark gray part right there is going to go down into the bobbin case like that. And now I'll put my thumb on here and rotate the bobbin case until you can find that little cut in it. The thread will pretty much fall into place there, and then all you gotta do is yank it forward to get it caught into that tension. And now I'll hold it just like this and I give it a little pull just to make sure that it actually set in the tension and nothing funky happened. And as long as everything feels good, you're good to go. And now you can take and put it back into place. It has this little notch on the right side of it, and that lines up with a cutout in your bobbin area. And you just line that up and give it a push, and it gives you a really good positive click so you know it's in place. And you can trim this and just leave it hanging right next door. Close that and you're ready to stitch. Alright, so now a trick that I like to use and show people whenever I can is how to switch thread colors without having to physically rethread like we just had to do there. So what you want to do, I'm going to go on needle 3 here, pull off some excess thread and cut it. So you want about that much there. Take your thread, grab your new thread you're using and seat it there. Now what I do is I line these up together. It's going to be hard to see that, but you want to hold 2 threads like one thread and just tie a simple knot like that. And then you come here to number 3 on the needle, pull it out of the eye of the needle and give that a little pull through until you see your new color. Number 3, use your threader. Just like that. You waste a little bit of thread, but it's worth it in the time that you're going to save. Alright, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the hoops that come with it. This is the 4x4. With this particular machine, you get this one as well as a 5x7, a little 1x2, and an 8x12. To keep it simple, what I got is just a scrap piece of cotton fabric and a pre-cut piece of medium tearaway. This is great to practice with because you get experience hooping as well as being able to run your machine without wasting a shirt or anything like that. So what I like to do is take your stabilizer, line your material up on top of it, make sure there's no bubbles and everything's flat. Take this and loosen it up pretty good. And you can the point is going to be to sandwich it. You can lay this down and do it this way, or you can do it upside down. Either way works, it doesn't really matter. One thing you're always going to want to make sure you do is overcut everything. Because if you skimp out and you don't hoop as much, you're going to have a problem down the road once you start stitching. So I loosen it up enough that it falls right into place when I push in on it, just like that. And now I can push down on this hoop and gently pull any little puckers I have out. And then what I like to do is pull this part, push my thumbs and pull my fingers on the hoop to get it nice and tight. And then I tighten down on my screw. You can use a screwdriver if you don't feel like you can get it that tight, but you want this thing tight. When you hit it, you want to have no bounce. You want to be able to hear how tight it is. And that's good to go. Now I want to talk a little bit about troubleshooting. You know, with any mechanical thing, there can be issues. Most of them for these machines were made to be worked through very simply. There's a couple things that I always like to tell people when they take a machine home to be more confident with. Touching your tension knobs is one of them. If you own this machine for a while, you're going to have to adjust your tension. Same with the bobbin case. You're going to have to adjust your tension. You don't want to have to bring it into the shop every time your tension looks funky. So I'm going to show you a way to do that. But before I get there, I'm going to show you a couple things to watch out for as you go down the road. There's a couple errors that are fairly prevalent to pop up. One of them is going to say check and rethread upper thread. The other that pops up is change your large embroidery frame when you know you have the right embroidery frame on. So the first thing we're going to tackle is the check and rethread error. So I'm going to bring you over here and I'm going to show you these clips that I was talking about earlier and how they can give you some weird errors. Okay, so these clips are really important to the whole tension assembly of the machine. What I got here, you can see that towards the top here, it's outside of it. And when you're sitting in front of a machine like this, it's very hard to tell. So if you ever start getting that weird error to check and rethread, this is usually the first thing that I'll look at. I'll make sure that I've successfully got it under the clip. Also make sure that it didn't slip out. If it did slip out like this, you just simply have to come here and pull it back into place. You want to check these as well on whatever needle you're working and make sure that everything looks good there. If you're still getting the error, you may have a little bit of a tension issue, which I'll show you how to check in a second, but that's something that I always keep an eye on. The other is change their large embroidery frame. I have people probably half the time when they get a new machine, half the people are going to say that they're using the right design, everything's perfect, but it's still saying change your large embroidery frame. If these screws, 1 and 2, if they're not tight, the sensor doesn't get pushed all the way. So what I always like to tell people to do is even if they're just a little bit loose, if you can take it and move it ever so slightly, that was your problem. And you need to get in there and make sure you finger tighten them. And if you've done that, typically that's going to fix that issue. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how to check your tension. You'll have to do this from time to time just to keep an eye on your tension and make sure everything still looks good. Sometimes if you're having a problem, this is what the first thing that I would do in store. So this is typically the first thing that I tell people to do if they call me with a problem or email, text me, whatever with a problem. I say do this. So older models are going to be a little different. This is obviously just for this model, but in every 6 and 10 needle machine there's a test sew out. On this particular one, it's in this setting. It looks like this right here. It's just 6 vertical bars. Pull that up, and I want to stitch this out. So you go through all your editing phase. I usually move it to one of the corners, mainly just in case I need to do it multiple times. I'm making the most of my space. So once you're good, embroider. Everything's already set up because we've done that already. So now you've gotten here. So I'm just gonna lock and let it run. All right, so now that the machine has run, it's done its thing, you can take its hoop off, and that's what we're dealing with here. So the top doesn't tell you much, but if you're having loops, it can, you know, let you know a little bit. But the main thing I do this for is my tension. So I'm gonna flip it over. It's a little hard to see in video, but you can see the white there and the top thread. So me personally, I would prefer my bobbin to be a little tighter. I want to see a little bit less than third. This is a little more white than I'm typically comfortable with. So I like to show you how to fix that. We're going to do it on the bobbin. If you had just one of these that look different, you would adjust your top thread accordingly. But since they're all even and they're all a little more than I want, I'm going to adjust my bobbin. So what you want to do is remove your bobbin case. And all you're going to need is a tiny little flathead. That's not going to focus for me, but on your bobbin case you got 2 screws. There's a large one and a smaller one. We're only worried about this large one here. And for the difference that I just saw on my tension, I'm going to take this on that large screw and I'm going to tighten it down about a half a turn. And then I would go back and retest it and adjust according to that. And I'm going to keep getting that feedback until it looks perfect for me. Thank you all for watching my introduction to Baby Lock multi-needles. If you have any questions about anything you saw or I said, I'm going to leave my email and phone number in the description box below. I plan on doing videos like this in the future. So if you have any requests of something you might want to see, shoot me an email, give me a call, or drop a comment below, and I'll be keeping an eye on those. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and like, and come back for future videos. Thank you.